Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, an understanding of the fascinating world of chess. I am George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening in room C59 from 7 to 11 at the McKay campus at the university. And with me today at the Fitchburg Access Television Production Center is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg. He's assisted in the control room by fellow resident and longtime Wachusett Chess Club member, Brian Bigelow. Behind the camera, following all the action, is longtime FATV volunteer, Andy Hawthorne. And across from me is my trusty co-host, the associate chess writer, active chess player, Dave Couture of Westminster. Hello, Dave.
Hi, George.
Well, Dave, I see someone sitting next to you, and we're going to introduce him because today we have the honor and pleasure and privilege of having our new Wachusett Chess Club champion. And he is none other than the one and only Bruce Felton of Fitchburg.
Thank you, George.
Bruce, it's great having you here. This program is about you because you just several days ago won for the third time the Wachusett Chess Club Championship. And you did this actually, the first club championship was actually in 2000. You did it all by yourself, you didn't tie with anyone. Then in 2005, you tied with me for the club championship. But this year, you scored 6 wins and only one draw, to finish clear first in a field of 8 players, and you played a round robin, and you were the only undefeated player, and you had a phenomenal performance by winning this year's club championship. Congratulations!
Well,
Congratulations! Yeah, you deserve it, and you did very well. Now, we're going to show our viewers the participants in this year's club championship, and we're going to start with your buddy sitting right next to you, Dave Couture. Let's show a photo of Dave Couture. This wasn't taken at the Wachusett Chess Club, but this was taken at the #1 chess club in the country. Where was this taken, Dave?
St. Louis Chess Club.
And you're on the left there.
Yeah.
You're extending your hand to the fellow in the red shirt.
Yeah,
Who is that?
Jonathan Schrantz, the club manager of the club. I was visiting, and he graciously offered to play a blitz game while I was there. So
okay, and you had an opportunity to meet the multi-millionaire Rex Singfield.
Yeah.
Who actually created.
Yeah, he happened to be walking out as I was walking in.
Okay, well, you had the opportunity of meeting a phenomenon in chess, Rex Singfield, who created the St. Louis Chess Club.
Yep.
All right, so you played in the club championship this year. You qualified and played. Now, who else played? Let's go to the next person that played in this tournament. And this is a teenager. He's in his mid-teens. I don't know if he's actually 15, 16, probably, I don't know. Yeah. But that's Ritvik Pulya of Acton, one of the strongest players of the club. He's a Class A player, Class A rating. He comes with his sister every week, Raga Pulya, and he competed in the championship. Yeah. Let's go to the next participant in the club championship. Besides Ritvik, we actually have on the right, in the foreground, we have the fellow in the blue striped shirt, is Roger Capallo. Now, Roger Capallo is a 2-time club championship. He is actually, last year he tied for first with our own Gary Broussard of Leominster. Roger Capallo was in Groton. And again, he didn't do so well this year. On the fellow on his left, he's playing with the red-headed fellow, is Ralph McNeilage, a Class A player from Worcester, who actually did very well. Scored 3.5 points out of the 7 games. He played 6 games.
6 games.
Yes, right. But he scored. He had a very good winning percentage.
Right. He was right in it up until
yes, he
2
was
weeks before.
Right into the end. Okay, let's go to another participant. Here is Larry Gladding, who is a 3-time club champion, who actually, he's in front of that computer because actually Larry does computer pairings every week at the Wachusett Chess Club. Our pairings are all done by computer, and Larry has the software that allows us to pair by computer. So he's a 3-time club champion. And now let's go to the next person, Paul Godin. He's the oldest player. He was the oldest. You know how old Paul is? How old does he look to you in that photo? Well, Paul, believe it or not, is 70 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, he's the same age. In fact, he and Roger Capallo were born the same year, 1949. Roger's going to turn 70 in September. Paul's already 70.
Yeah.
But one thing about Paul, he was the club champion at the age of 18 when he won it in 1967. So he's trying to make a comeback.
Yeah.
You know, after all these years, Paul Godin, who lives in Bedford, formerly of Fitchburg, and again, he won the club championship 52 years ago, and he's once again right there, a strong Class A player. Now let's go to the next participant. Here is this year's runner-up.
Yeah.
Who's won this? He's won the club championship also twice. He did it actually 2 years ago. He won it clear. Yeah, actually in 2017 wasn't he the clear winner?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, he was. Yeah, but he's a two-time club champion. He lives in Ray Paulson lives in Lowell. He's in his 60s. I believe he's actually 62. You know, one thing that Bruce and who else did I mention as far as other players? Most of the players were in their 60s.
Yeah.
You know, this is an older crowd who's playing this year's club championship. But Ray is a 62-year-old strong Class A player from Lowell who finished a half a point behind Bruce.
Yep.
And Bruce, however, defeated Ray early in the tournament, and that spelled the difference. But it came down to the last round. So let's see actually a picture of you, Bruce. This is a nice mug shot of you at the board. Again, you've been playing chess how many years now? When did you start playing chess?
I was 19.
19 when you started. Oh, this goes way back. Because you're, I think, 66. Aren't you 66?
Yes, I am.
So you've been with chess a long time.
Yes, George, you're my inspiration now because you're 66.
Yeah, I know.
You won the club championship. You just hit an all-time high rating.
Yes.
If I can do that at 66,
If you can do it at
I'll
60,
be happy.
yeah, you could be happy if you can do that. Yes.
You just hit 2,000 for the first time.
Right. Exactly. So those.
Good thing, huh?
Yeah, that's a great thing.
So again, but you know, you did not win the club championship until the final round of the tournament, because going into the final round, you had 5.5 points out of the 6 rounds already played. You had drawn Rittvik earlier, but Ray Paulson was a half point behind you, wasn't he? Just yeah. So you had to win your last game to finish clear first, because a draw. If you had drawn your game.
Because Ray won his last round.
Yeah, Ray Paulson quickly won his last round game.
Yes, sitting next to me, destroying his opponent.
So that was a lot of pressure on you going into the last round. Now, who did you play in the last round? The crucial final round of the tournament.
Larry Gladding.
Larry Gladding, a 3-time club champion. We have a photo of that actually from the game. This is actually from the actual game. Larry Gladding on the left, who had white, and you're there. Larry had just made a move. I can see that he's waiting for you. You're writing down his move that he just played. That's the game we're going to present to our viewers, because this is the crucial last round game that made it possible for you to become this year's club championship. So, because Larry had white, and we're going to tell our viewers that we're going to present graphically the first 10 moves of the game. Then we're going to get into a discussion from move 11 on about the game. We'll make comments. So let's show the first move of the game that Larry played. He played D4 as white, and we got the board flipped. We're seeing it from your perspective, Bruce. So D4 was played. Now, in response to that, what did you play, Bruce? You played
Knight F6.
All right, we'll play Knight F6 on the board. Okay, we see it on the board here. Knight F6 is played. And we're seeing the position on our TV screen from your perspective. Okay, now Larry Gladding now played C4, the pawn to C4. From C2 to C4. And we'll see that actually played out. There it is. There's pawn on C4. And Bruce, you played now the pawn on E7 to E6. Let's see it played here on the screen. Okay, we see C4 being played again, but you're playing E6. We'll see it. We'll give it time. Again, there's E6. Pawn is being pushed up to AE6. White's next move is knight c3. Larry Gladding is developing his pieces. He's bringing the knight on b1 out to c3, and it's your move, third move, Bruce, and you now played d5. You move the pawn from d7 to d5, and we now have a opening called the Queen's Gambit. You're actually white. White is offering you up that pawn on c4. Okay, but now what did you do? Here's what Larry did. It's his move. He exchanged. The c pawn took the pawn on d5, and you took back with your e pawn. Your e pawn took his d pawn, and now we have what we call the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. He declined your gambit, but it's an exchange variation. Now what was played? Larry now played the bishop to g5, pinning the knight. All right, so that knight is pinned, cannot move, otherwise the queen would be lost. What did you do, Bruce, in response to bishop g5? You played, yes, you protected the pawn on d5. You had to because there was possibly a threat of taking the knight with the bishop on f6 and possibly doubling the pawns, otherwise there'd be a pawn loss. But anyways, let's continue. What did Larry do? Queen c2. He plays the queen to c2. What, is he planning the castle queenside? There's that possibility with the queen on c2. But what did you do, Bruce, in response to queen c2? You played the knight on b8 to d7. All right, so now you're developing that knight to the d7 square. Larry's move. Larry now played the pawn to e3, opening up now for the light squared bishop to come out. And Bruce, you now played on your move the bishop to e7, which breaks the pin. Now the knight is no longer pinned. The bishop is protecting the knight on f6. And now Larry is going to play what? He now plays bishop d3. He's got the queen and the bishop lined up along that b1 to h7 diagonal, putting pressure on the pawn on h7, but of course it's protected. And now what did you do in response? You castled. Bruce, you castled in this position. And what did Larry do in response to your castling? He played his knight on g1 to e2. So giving him the opportunity for him to castle on the king's side. So what did you do in response to knight g e2? You in turn brought the rook over to e8. You bring the rook over to semi-open e-file. And now what did Larry do in response to that? Well, Larry now castled, king side. Castle on the short side. It's your move, Bruce. And what did you do in response to that? You played the knight on d7 to f8. Okay. Now we're actually basically, are we in the middle? Are we still in the opening? We're still in the opening, basically. Yeah, we're still in the opening. But now we're going to get into the meat of this game. What Larry now played for his 11th move is he played the pawn on f2 to f3. This is in preparation to advance his e-pawn to e4. So that's his plan. He's adopting this plan of advancing his pawn to e4. What did you do in response to that, Bruce?
Well, unfortunately for me, I went to bishop to d7, which is considered an inferior move actually by the best players.
All right, so you say that you're playing bishop d7 is not considered according to theory, according to what they call book. This is not a book move. This is a departure from known theory. Right. Okay. All right. So what did Larry do in response to your bishop d7? And when you play bishop d7, he carries out his plan, doesn't he?
Yes, sir.
He plays his pawn on e3 to e4. So he's now advancing it. That was his plan by playing f3, is to advance it. All right. So Dave, what did Bruce do? What did Bruce do in response?
He exchanged.
So he took the d pawn, takes the pawn on e4, and Larry takes back, and of course he takes back with the f pawn, so he can actually open up this f file. It's not completely open because there's a pawn on f7, but he has total control of the center. Look at the control White has of the two pawns in the center on d4 and e4. Okay.
And I was thinking, George,
yes,
for my next move, because of the fork that the knight can make when I make this move.
All right.
To G4.
Right. Oh, that's what you, oh, that.
Yes.
Oh, I
I
see.
thought for a while that
Okay, that's what you played.
this is, but actually this is the book move.
Oh,
I
this
was
is
thinking
book.
that I was wasting the move.
Oh, so you didn't-
but
oh,
actually, it's not a wasted move.
So it's a good move.
It is.
Nothing wrong with
it's,
the move.
it's a book move. Yes.
Okay, so what Larry did in response when you played knight G4 is his bishop on G5 captured your bishop on E7, which attacks the queen, by the way.
Right.
And what did Larry do?
He took back with the queen.
Queen takes E7.
Bruce took back with the queen.
Okay, now, what is your threat now? It's White's move. It's Larry's move, but you did that move, knight G4, because your threat is to come into E3 and fork the queen and the rook and,
Yes.
and be winning a rook, because the queen would have to move to save itself.
Right.
Yes.
So because that is your threat, Larry, of course, sees that threat and plays the queen over to D2, which actually protects that square E3. All right, so what did you do now? Now that he's come over here, and you cannot bring that knight in there because he controls that E3 square. What are your choices here? I mean, there are a number of things you could do, but what did you end up doing after he played queen D2?
I wasn't comfortable with that knight on G4, so I want to really find a home for that knight.
All right. So what did you do now? I mean, so did
Right
you
now.
now? So what you did
First, he did that.
Oh, so you brought the rook on A8 over to D8. Yeah, because the rook has no future staying on A8. You might as well get over here and actually put some pressure on this pawn.
Yes, but that's also a bad move from Bruce.
You mean you consider that move? Dave, what do you think of that move?
I think that's okay.
I find nothing wrong with your move, rook over to D8. No, I mean you're centralizing the rooks.
Yes, that's true. But
yeah,
according to White's plan.
But I think probably what you don't like is the fact this knight is out here has no future here.
Yes, and I watched a few videos on White plan.
Okay.
And I understand what White is really aiming for.
All right.
So that's why I considered the move rook A to D8.
D8.
Not as,
To me, it's a natural move. Dave and I.
it is a natural
I think
move.
if Dave and I were playing this as black, we'd play the same move you played here. We would depart from what you played. I find
Okay.
nothing.
You
we
watch
find-
videos after this game?
Yes.
Oh,
I watched the video after the game.
Oh, I see.
And I understand
Okay.
Yeah.
actually what White plan is.
All
So
right.
now I consider
Right.
this move not as strong.
All right.
And that's why I consider Bishop D7.
Yeah, see, that-
This is the wrong place because I know it's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
But in the game,
Right.
I wasn't feeling that. And plus I had the nerves going,
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So after you played rook on A8 to D8, Larry on his what move is this?
16th
move. His rook on A1 comes over to. Does it come over to E1?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
He centralizes his rook on A1. So okay. So wait a minute. Is everybody developing? Are all pieces developed? It looks like
Pretty
everybody.
much just this night.
Yeah, this knight actually is getting redeployed.
Right,
here.
redeployed,
Right,
right.
exactly. But all these pieces have moved.
Yep.
All the minor pieces, the major pieces, they've all moved at some point.
Yep.
So there has been development. Okay, what did you do now, Bruce, on your 16th move after Larry played?
Now it's knight F6.
So you realize the knight comes back to F6, knight F6, okay, that's what you played. Now here is where Larry...
We're getting the signal to speed up a little.
Okay, we'll do that by playing E5. E5 attacks the knight. Okay, let's do that. Okay,
All right.
attack it. All right.
Bruce responded with knight D5.
Okay, knight D5. All right. This gives actually Larry the opportunity to play the knight on C3 to E4. He brings his knight over to E4, and he has a threat. He has a threat. But what did you do?
No, well, I move E6 because I see the threat and I can't prevent him from getting in the position. So I just
brought the
moved
bishop
to E6.
Which you wish you had played that in the opening.
Yes, sir.
Instead of playing in the D7.
Yes.
So when you played bishop E6 on your 18th move, Larry brought this knight on E4 and sank it right into D6, which attacks the rook on E8,
Right.
and the rook cannot, that rook on E8 cannot move to save itself.
So the best
So
you
you
could
made a
do-
decision. You made an important decision in the game where your rook on D8 captured his knight on D6, and he actually takes back with the pawn on E5. E takes the rook on D6. What have you just done? You have actually you've given up what?
Exchange.
You've given up the exchange. You've given up a rook which is worth about 5 pawns for a minor piece and a pawn, because what you did was take back, queen takes that pawn on D6 on your 20th move.
But the D pawn is isolated, so
Yes.
I felt I could get that pawn
All right,
back.
so you felt by sacrificing the exchange, giving up a rook for a minor piece and a pawn.
But he had to, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
Right, I didn't have it.
Yeah, you had to.
I didn't have a
Okay.
choice.
Here is where Larry plays the pawn to A3, because he doesn't. I think he doesn't want this knight to sink over here to B4 with a double attack with the bishop and the knight attacking this undefended pawn here,
Yes.
as well as attacking this bishop, which is bearing down here. So A3 stops you from bringing the knight to B4. A good defensive move on Larry's part to stop you from bringing that knight to B4. So what did you do after
We're getting
Larry?
the signal to speed up even more now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, here is where Larry, after you played rook E7,
Yep.
we played knight G3. Larry brought knight to G3. Okay, well, moving along. We're doing fine. Oh, so you brought the knight.
F6.
Knight F6. Okay. So here is where Larry brings the queen on D2 to F4. Hey, he's offering exchange of queens, isn't he? He's putting his queen right where you can exchange it. But what did you do, Bruce?
No, I didn't want to exchange.
You didn't want to exchange. You wanted to hold on.
I moved back to Queen D7.
Queen D7. You wanted to You wanted to hold on to your queen and not exchange, because remember you're down the exchange. Yeah, so you decided to hold on to the queen. He now, Larry, plays knight F5. That's his 24th move, is it not?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and now he's attacking the rook here.
So I have to get the rook out the way, so I just move it back.
Okay,
to
so
E8.
Okay, so the rook went back to E8. Now, however, this is going to cost you, because what Larry did, the knight on F5 takes the pawn on G7. Okay, that must have surprised you when he did that. Yes.
And then this
Yeah.
in chess, this one I call it the crying game because I felt I was going to lose.
At this point, you thought you were losing this game.
Well, now I'm down 2 points.
Now he's down 2 pawns.
Now I'm down 2 points.
Now he's got to take,
So
because
I have
he's
to take.
So king takes G7. You had to take, and he now takes with the queen. Queen takes the knight on F6. Check.
And I thought for a minute, but why is only one square to go to? I move.
Yeah, you only have king G8.
I will move back.
You got to move the king G8. Now here's where Larry moves his king on G1 over to H1, so that because remember, the only thing protecting this pawn on D4 right now is the queen.
Yep.
He probably doesn't want to be in a position where the queen, if it comes off the defense of this pawn, allows you to take that pawn with check. So
right.
That's why he moved his king off, so he wouldn't be subjected to a check if you ever took that pawn on D4.
Yep.
What did you do, Bruce?
Knight G6, trying to consolidate my
Knight
position.
G6 is what you played. Well, in response to that, what Larry did, the bishop on D3 is going to take the knight on G6, and that's what he did. And you took back which way?
H take G.
Yes, you took back with the H pawn. H takes G6. Now, what Larry did is play the queen to E5, and this bishop is pinned. It cannot move because we have the rook and the queen lined up with pressure on the rook. So the bishop is fixed there, cannot move. It's pinned. All right. What did you do now, Bruce, after Larry played Queen E5?
Actually, rook.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
You don't like this pin. You don't like this bishop being pinned.
And
Oh, now,
then I'm on-
well, now you're
I'm on
actually,
pawn.
so Larry sees this pawn is now under double attack with the queen and the rook. Doesn't he bring the rook up on F1 to F4?
Yep.
Now, what's his threat? You must have seen this immediately, what he was threatening.
H4. And
He's threatening to bring the rook over to H4 with the threat of coming down either with the queen or the rook with mate. If he ever is able to carry out rook H4, he's threatening mate. All right. So the rook is on F4. So what did you do? You had
Well, I
one
prevented-
defensive move.
I prevented it by putting the queen on E7.
All right, so the queen here stops the rook from coming to H4. So with the queen on E7, what Larry does now, he brings the rook on E1 over to F1, and now he's doubled the rooks on the F file. Okay, he's putting lots of pressure here. Again, and the queen is still protecting over here on D4. What did you do, Bruce, now in response to this?
I moved the queen to F8.
Right, because you actually want to redeploy this and probably bring the queen over here and try to maybe still want to hold on to the queen, but it's going to be difficult. After you play queen F8, you know what Larry played? He played the rook on F4 to F6. Okay, looks like he puts more pressure here on the bishop and on the pawn.
We had said it probably would have been a better idea to threaten mate.
Yes, actually, this was still a better move to come here. It's complicated, and again, time was a factor, wasn't it? In this game,
Yes.
you're playing game 100 minutes, so time was running short. But he played rook F6, and what did you do now? You brought the queen to G7.
Queen to G7.
Okay. Okay. Now here is where Larry missed a chance to win the game.
Right.
As we analyzed it, Larry could have won the game by playing the rook takes on E6.
Right. Bruce couldn't take back because if he did,
it's going to be allowed. Queen takes here.
queen takes.
We'll tell our viewers this is it's complicated. I mean, it's not complicated to an experienced player, but to a beginner it would be very complicated. What Larry did instead in this position, he brought the queen over to C7, attacking the rook. That's what he did. Queen C7, and what did you do in response to that?
I stood up because I realized, hey, there's a possibility that I can get this sack in.
So what did you do? So Bruce, you took the pawn on D4 with the rook. Rook takes D4. That was your 33rd move. And Larry started checking you. Queen B8 checks the king, forces the king to move. He had to move to H7. And now what Larry did was come back to Queen E5 and reinforce the defense of this. He's attacking the rook also. The queen now is attacking the rook on D4. What did you do in response to that?
Come back, rook to D5.
You attacked his queen. Okay, by attacking his queen, he's got to move his queen to save it. And now here is the blunder of the game.
Yeah.
This is actually what he should have done was just retreated this queen along the E file. Possibly the E2 is fine. Anywhere along this file would have fine. What he did was he played Queen G3, thinking, he may be able to get queen, maybe the queen in the, well, anyway, he comes here. That's a mistake. How did you punish this mistake in the game?
Well, I realized there's a queen sacrifice in the back rank would be open.
So you saw this? You saw that actually?
Actually, I saw it on move 32.
Oh, really? You saw this actually several moves earlier?
If I could displace his queen.
Right.
Only if I could displace his queen.
Right.
And eventually.
So what you did is you captured his rook on F6, and Larry resigned. Why did he resign? Because if he had taken, this is where the final position, if he had taken your queen with the rook, he would have been subjected to a check. The only way to start, he blocked with two pieces. He'd block with the queen here, check, and then the rook come back, and the rook would take, he would be checkmate in 2 moves. And that's how you would have won the game, but he saw it. That's how you won the club championship. Congratulations again to our,
thank you, sir.
Our Bruce Felton, our new 2019 Wachusett Chess Club champion.
All right, guys. I appreciate you.
And we got a surprise for you for our next chess chat, our own Carissa Yip, Women Grandmaster. Stay tuned for that program coming up next time on Chess Chat.